The Fed's out of options. Rate cuts, money printing, balance sheet reversals. They call it policy, but it's really panic. This is in-game economics, where hope replaces discipline and the illusion of control finally breaks. They're not cutting rates because things are strong. They're cutting because the system is cracking. Inflation's eating savings. The labor market's stalling. Confidence in the dollar is fading fast. For decades, the Fed built a house of paper. Now they're striking the match that could burn it all down, leaving you to pay the price. When's the last time you actually held the wealth you've spent your life working for? My friends at Noble Gold Investments have been helping Americans move from paper wealth into real tangible assets. Numbers on a screen can disappear, but physical gold and silver, they've outlasted every crisis in history. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's noblegoldinvestments.com for your free wealth protection kit. Discover how simple it is to protect your future. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
If weight management is one of your New Year goals, Quicksilver Scientific's GLP-1 amplifier can help. This science-backed formula supports metabolic balance, curbs cravings, and promotes healthy blood sugar levels, making it easier to stay consistent and in control. It helps give your body the boost it needs to keep you on track. Feel confident and energized this year with Quicksilver Scientific's GLP-1 amplifier. Get 10% off and free shipping at tryqs.com/podcast. Again, that's tryqs.com/podcast for 10% off and free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
From walking barefoot in the snow to hiking for miles for a view, it feels good to connect with our simpler side. Simplifying your wellness with Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake feels good too. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and more. No fillers, no nonsense, just the highest quality ingredients. New customers get $20 off an order of 2 bags or more now through January 31st when they go to Kachava, KACHAVA.com, and use code FITNESS.
Paranormal experiences don't really work to a timescale, and therefore we invite you to listen to a Dark Minisode.
Hello everyone and welcome to the first Dark Minisode of this season. Now first and foremost, obviously, a huge thank you for all of the positive feedback regarding the changes we've made. The changes are still going to come, but I also want to thank you for the constructive criticism. Literally, our Patreon team, as I've said before, are like our producers of the show. So much so that when they received their early access to this week's debut, a comment from one of our wonderful Patreons led me to change the ending of the show. So, when I say this is your show, nothing could be more tangible than that. I, as I've said before, am merely the conduit for your amazing stories. And all I try to do with the background music, with the music in general, is to create a good ambience for these horrific stories. So thank you very much for all of your help and all of your support. Don't forget to become one of our producers, basically. Head to the show notes and you'll find a link to a free week of our Patreon at any tier. And you'll gain access to nearly 180 plus hours of Patreon-only content. That's experiences and tales only heard by our Patreon team. We will hopefully close in on the 200-hour mark by the end of this season. And that's something I'm really proud of, and that's all thanks to you. But we do have ourselves our very first Dark Minisode to be getting on with. Now, the title for this minisode is something you may think is a bit cliché, but when you hear the story, I'm sure you'll agree there was only one title. Because this experience sent to us from one of our listeners, we're going to call The Nun. Hello, Kev. I'm a retired police officer living down south now, but I need to share what happened with me at a station in the northwest. Your neck of the woods, actually. I won't name the place because certain elements of what I'm about to tell you are well known to the staff there, and the place itself is still in operation. And I don't want to be responsible for a load of ghost hunters descending upon them. Believe me, they have enough to deal with without that. I started there in my late 20s. I transferred in from a quiet rural posting. Now, the building itself was one of those Victorian jobs. All high ceilings, thick walls, and that particular smell old public buildings have. You know the type. Now, the custody suite had been modernised sometime in the 70s or 80s. All strip lighting and vinyl floors. But the bare bones of the building were old. Really old. My first week was the usual. Learning the layout, meeting the team, getting shown where everything was kept. Standard stuff, really. But I noticed something odd straight away. I noticed officers would take the long route to get to custody, rather than use the main stairwell. Now, I'm talking about walking an extra corridor and down a different set of stairs, even when they're in a hurry. So I asked about it, and I got vague answers in reply. "Oh, those stairs are a bit dodgy," one man said. "I just prefer the other route," said another. It was my second week when somebody finally told me straight. We were drinking a cup of tea in the restroom, me, a couple of PCs, and a sergeant who'd been there for 15 years. The sergeant, who I'll call Dave, looked over his cup at me and said, "Has anyone told you about the nun yet?" Now, I thought he was winding me up. New lad gets the ghost story treatment, it's a tale as old as time. So I laughed it off. I said something about not believing in that sort of thing. I expected Dave to laugh and say it was a wind-up, but he just shrugged and said, "You will," as he walked over to the sink to wash his cup. And that was that. But I noticed even the other two people in the room weren't laughing. They just kind of went quiet and swilled their tea. Over the next few weeks, I had heard bits and pieces. Apparently, officers had been seeing this nun for decades. It was definitely a nun, apparently, or what looked like one, always near the stairs or in the stairwells. The building did have a history I never got to the bottom of. There was rumours about it being connected to a convent or a hospital way back when. The details were fuzzy. The kind of thing that gets half remembered and half passed down as shift patterns go on and station gossip continues. I remain skeptical. I'm the type of guy who needs to see something to believe it. And even then I look for the rational explanation first. But I will admit, there was an atmosphere around those stairs. Even in broad daylight. Even when it was full of people. It just felt wrong. It was colder than the rest of the building. Oppressive. I still use them, though. I'm not one for superstition. And I wasn't about to waste time walking the long way round because of some story. The first time I saw her, and I'm certain now it was a her, was about 2 months in. I'd stayed late dealing with paperwork. It was a domestic incident that needed proper documentation. Pages of statements and evidence logs. And by the time I'd finished, it had gone 8 in the evening. The place was nearly empty. Only a skeleton crew downstairs and the night shift. Maybe 1 or 2 others somewhere in the building. I gathered up my files and headed out of the office on the first floor. My plan was simple. Down the main stairs to the custody suite, drop the files in the tray, and out to the car park. I approached the stairwell and pushed through the door. The landing was lit, everything normal, and I took my first step down. And every light went out. No flickering, no dimming, off, instantly off, as if a switch had been thrown. The only light was what filtered up from the custody area below, and a weak emergency exit sign. And that temperature. Christ, that temperature. It was like stepping into a freezer. My breath was in front of me, and I'm not exaggerating. I felt it in my chest with every breath. I stopped on the very second step, put my hand on the rail, trying to let my eyes adjust. And that's the point I saw it. Down at the bottom of the stairs, maybe 12 steps down, was a figure. In that poor light, I couldn't make out details, but the shape was clear enough. Tall, draped in something long and pale, and not standing on the floor. Floating, hovering maybe 6 inches above the bottom step. My brain immediately went to explanations. It's someone messing about, a prank on the new guy, it's got to be. So I said, loud and clear, stop messing around and put the bloody lights on. The figure faded. Not moved away, faded, like smoke dispersing. And as it did, the lights blinked back on. But not all together, one by one. Starting from that bottom step and working up to me. The temperature came back to normal so quickly, I'd wondered if I'd imagined the cold. I stood there for a good 30 seconds, my heart hammering out my chest, looking at the empty stairwell. Then I walked down, quickly. I dropped my files on the steps, picking them up, and I ran out of there. I didn't tell anyone. What was I going to say? I'd seen something I couldn't explain. Admitting that felt like admitting the new boy'd lost the plot. After that, I worked mainly day shifts for a few months. I was rarely in the station itself, out on patrol, dealing with calls, covering other areas. When I was in the building, it was during busy times with people everywhere, and nothing else happened. I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Stress, tiredness, suggestions from the stories I'd heard. We all know the mind can play tricks. But then came my turn for station night shifts. Now, I actually prefer night shifts. It's quieter. There's less politics. You have more time to think. The station was different at night, though. All of those little sounds you don't notice during the day become obvious. The building settling, the heating kicking in and out, the hum of the strip lights and the empty corridors felt longer somehow. It was my 3rd or 4th night shift when I saw her again. I was walking from the front of the building towards the back where the car park is. Now, to get there, you pass the top main stairwell, the one I'd had my first encounter on. Then continue along a corridor to another set of stairs that lead up to the car park level. It's not a complicated route, but at night, with minimal lighting, it felt like a trek. I was halfway along the corridor when I glanced to my right. I had an urge toward the main stairs. And there she was.
Personally, investing felt like something I'd get to later. Like a lot of people, I was focused on where my money was right now, not where it could be going. What changed for me was realizing that starting small and staying consistent matters much more than trying to know everything up front. You guys know I've worked with acorns before, I know them well, I know how diligently and ethically they work, and I've just been going through their app, and believe me, I genuinely love how simple it is and how approachable it feels. Acorns is a smart way to give your money a chance to grow without needing a finance degree or hours of your time. You can sign up in minutes and automatically invest spare money, even spare change, and adjust how often you're investing as your life changes. A feature that blew me away on the app is the Acorns Potential screen. It helps you understand the power of compounding over time and makes the idea of long-term investing feel calm, clear, and achievable. Acorns grows with you, supporting your big goals and your small goals. And it keeps everything in the one place so you're not juggling multiple finance apps. If you've been waiting for the right time to start, this is your sign. Sign up now and Acorns will boost your new account with a $5 bonus investment. Join over 14 million all-time customers who've already saved and invested over $27 billion. Head to acorns.com/darkparanormal or download the Acorns app to get started. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. T2 compensation provided. Potential subject to various factors such as customers' accounts, age, and investment settings. Does not include Acorns fees. Results do not predict or represent the performance of any Acorns portfolio. Investment results will vary. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/darkparanormal.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The new year doesn't require a brand new you. Sometimes it just calls for a less burdened one. I think a lot of us walk around carrying things we don't even realize we're holding. Fear, pressure, doubt, the need to be perfect. And over time, those things can start to feel normal even when they're weighing us down. I'll say this openly, I take part in therapy myself, and I can speak with nothing but praise about the process of sitting down with a professional, building that rapport, and slowly learning how your thoughts, emotions, and reactions fit together. It doesn't fix everything overnight, but it can help you understand what you're carrying and what you may be able to let go of. And that's where services like BetterHelp come in. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. They work with fully licensed therapists in the US, and they handle the initial matching for you using just a short questionnaire, so you can focus on what you want to work on. And if that fit isn't right, you can switch therapists at any time from their tailored recommendations. BetterHelp has an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions, based on over 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp make it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com. That's betterhelp.com. Today's episode of The Dark Paranormal is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it. So your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Companies and affiliates' potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
It was this, until now, myth. Back once more was the nun. Floating. And there is no other word for it. Floating over the stairwell. Moving down. I stopped walking. I just stood there watching. She was clearer this time. I could see the shape of the habit, the white of what may have been her face, though I couldn't make out any features. She moved smoothly, steadily downwards, and as she descended, the lights above each stair went off as she passed. I have no idea how long I stood there. It may have been seconds, it may have been longer. And then the lights blinked back on, and she was gone. I looked around, hoping someone else had seen it, but the corridor was empty and I was completely alone. I was shaking. I went straight to the car park and sat in my car for 10 minutes, trying to process what I'd just seen. This was not tiredness. This was not suggestion. I'd seen something. The next shift, I found Dave, the sergeant who'd mentioned the nun on my second week. Quietly, I took him aside for a moment and told him what I'd seen. Now, I expected skepticism, maybe some gentle ribbing, and plain-facedly just nodded. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds about right. I've seen it too. 4 times over the years, always near those stairs, sometimes on them, sometimes at the bottom, and once at the top just stood there, well, floating there. When you mentioned it before, I thought you were taking the piss. Then he laughed. Everyone does until they see her, he said. And even when you tell people straight, they think you're mad, so I don't bother with new guys anymore. He then told me that the station had even called in a vicar back in the 50s to try to get rid of whatever it was. Blessings, prayers, the full works. But it made no difference. She was still there. Officers had been reporting sightings since at least the 40s, probably longer. She was just part of the building, like the dodgy plumbing or the heating that never quite worked properly. Does she ever do anything? I asked. I mean, apart from appear. Not really, Dave said. She's just there. She doesn't seem to interact with anyone. She doesn't follow people. She just shows up. She floats around a bit and then vanishes. Scary as hell the first time you see her. But she's never done anything harmful. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. A few weeks later, something happened that rattled even the more experienced officers. We had a colleague, I'll call him Mark, fairly new like me but on a different shift. One night when I was on duty downstairs in the custody suite, Mark asked if he could go upstairs to use a computer in one of the offices on the first floor. He needed to type up some reports, and the computers down in custody were all in use. Of course, I said, go ahead. Half an hour later, the custody area door slams open so hard, I thought it would come off its hinges. Mark practically fell through, white as a sheet, sweating, eyes wide. I've seen people in shock before. It comes with the job. But this was a world of different. He looked terrified. What's wrong? I asked, already moving towards him. I just saw a fucking ghost, he said. His voice was shaking with disbelief. Upstairs in the office? I've just saw a ghost. I sat him down, I got him some water. Took him a few minutes to calm down, though, because he was really hyped up. He said he'd been typing away at the computer, focused on the screen, and something caught his eye. Movement from further down the office. He said he just haphazardly glanced over and saw a figure in white walking across the room. Not floating this time, walking, or appearing to walk. He said it was definitely a woman, definitely dressed in white or pale grey, and was moving steadily across the office towards the back corner. He said he didn't recognize the person, didn't recognize the shape or the clothing, so he got up to see who it was, still not thinking it was a ghost. It might have been someone from another department working late, he thought. When he got to where he'd seen them go, he realized his mistake. Because that back corner is a dead end. No doors, no windows you can climb through, just walls and a filing cabinet. And the person wasn't there. He said he stood there for a few seconds, trying to work it out, refusing to allow himself to believe it was a ghost, until the inevitability struck him, either that human defied physics, or he'd seen a ghost. At which point, he legged it straight down to custody to the nearest living person he could find. Kevin, I arrived at that station a complete skeptic. And I left not only as a believer, but as a fully fledged experiencer of the supernatural. I've no idea what that nun is or why she's there. I don't even know if she was ever a real person or if it's some kind of residual haunting. I just know that she's there, and that building is genuinely haunted. I've not been back since I retired, and I don't think, gladly, I ever will. Many thanks, Anonymous. Well, thank you, Anonymous, for giving us such a straight, wonderful, complete ghost tale of your own experience that doesn't fit necessarily a start, end, resolution narrative, and that's wonderful. That's what I love about the paranormal. It's so rare that we receive a resolution on a narrative, and that's why from the hundreds of emails we receive, we sometimes try and choose the ones with a resolution to use as the main episodes. But these wonderful shorter experiences, they have no rhyme, reason, they have no resolution. And for me, that is the mystery within the paranormal. We can spend, and I do spend, quite a bit of time trying to find out why. I'm very black and white. I don't have time for grey. I'm very causal. If X, then Y. But the paranormal is my one challenge, because X does not always equal Y. Sometimes X just equals X. Sometimes X isn't even X, and there's still a Y. Sometimes X and Y don't exist, it's just the grey in between. And that's the mystery I find truly fascinating. But I want to thank you all for joining me on our debut minisode for Season 23. Until next time, stay safe and take care.
If you're the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, you know having a trusted partner makes all the difference. That's why, hands down, you count on Grainger for auto reordering. With on-time restocks, your team will have the cut-resistant gloves they need at the start of their shift. And you can end your day knowing they've got safety well in hand. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.